former Minister of Equality and currently a member of the European Parliament, Irene Montero, just a few days ago gave a remarkable speech at a campaign rally in Zaragoza, Spain, in which she suggested that it would be a good idea to sweep all the fascists out of Spain, the fascists, and replace them with immigrants. She was speaking in the context of a plan by the current Spanish government, a leftist government, to regularize 500,000 migrants, which will basically mean giving them resident permits and work permits. Now, imagine if someone on the right had said, we need to sweep all the leftists out of Spain and we need to replace them. There would be an absolute uproar in the media, in the international media. BBC would be berating such a politician for engaging in incitement to hatred. And it would be a major part of the news cycle. But because it's a leftist politician, we're not going to hear so much about that in the international media. But from my perspective, as someone living in Spain, I've lived here for over 12 years. I know what this means in a Spanish context. I know what the language of fascism means here. And the word that she used was fachas, which means basically it's a derogatory term for people on the right, for right-wingers, basically. Maybe an equivalent would be right-wing nuts or something like that, or fundamentalists. But the main point is that we have a pattern in Spain of leftists, including leftists from her party, Podemos, going after people on the right, labeling them as pro-Franco, labeling them as fascists. And this is something they do routinely for anyone on the right. Basically, if you express anything, even a mainstream opinion on the right, say concerning marriage and family life, or concerning, transgender surgery, or you express reservations about current immigration policies or welfare policies, you are labeled facha, you're labeled a fascist. That's an important piece of context to understand what she's saying, because the signal she's giving, how a Spanish person will hear this, is that a very large part of the Spanish population, namely people who are broadly speaking on the right, need to be swept aside. They need to be made invisible. They need to be alienated and marginalized from mainstream Spanish politics. Now, I don't think that she was, advocating genocide in any kind of overt way, or even implicit way. But the language she used was, of replacement, of sweeping society, sweeping someone away from society, out of society, is a language that brings to mind ethnic cleansing. And it is absolutely irresponsible and reckless of her to use this language. And it also indicates to me that she views her political adversaries through a very dehumanizing lens, because she is literally saying we need to just get rid of the people on the right, which, by the way, we're talking about a huge proportion of the Spanish population. Let's just say at the very least a third of the population, somewhere possibly between a third and a half of the population. And these people should be just swept aside and replaced. This kind of incendiary language, this kind of reckless language, is indeed incitement to hatred. That language, I would say, is actually incitement to hatred. It actually reflects some of the kind of cadence of ethnic cleansing language. In this case, it's not an ethnicity; it's ideology, political or political opinion. This will lead us down a very dark path. It's a radicalizing kind of rhetoric that encourages people to view their political adversaries as utterly unworthy of citizenship, as the sorts of people who should be just swept aside and eliminated or replaced. I would like to think that her political career would suffer as a result of this kind of intervention, but unfortunately, the mainstream media, generally speaking, a large part of the mainstream media internationally and also in Spain, will give her a free pass, I believe. Um, there will be media, journalists, there will be politicians who go after her. But people on the left seem to get away with a lot more, in Europe at least, than people on the right in terms of the kinds of things they can say. This is one of the most extreme pieces of rhetoric that I have heard in my time in Spain and indeed in Europe. I think it's very worrying, and I think that it's part of a broader pattern of polarization of society, of dehumanization of our political adversaries. And I really hope that at least some people on the left will distance themselves from this lady and say that she does not speak for them.